Alright, it is time for another unboxing video. This time, we're looking at the Eberron Skycoach Case Incentive Mini. This was again provided by Wizkids, and this is what you got for pre-ordering or buying a case of the Eberron Rising from the Last War Minis, what we unboxed in the previous video. Looks like there's a lot of cool stuff in here, so if you want to see what's contained inside, stay tuned. Alright, so at this point I'm just going to unbox it over here on this side, and then we'll decide, we'll zoom it in as necessary. Also, thank you to everyone who was interested in the last video as we did the unboxing of the other minis. Thank you again for everybody pointing out that I need to use either tape or a lint brush on the rotating felt stand. I will do so before the next time. I don't think we're going to need it in this particular one. I should also say, I didn't say it last time, that I think Amazon technically says these are going to come out the 31st of January, but I believe other miniature-based websites are saying these aren't going to be released until sometime in March. I'm not sure which one is the true date. If you know for 100% certain, please leave it in the comments down below. But as I do have, once again, thank you to Wizkids for providing these for review purposes. Because of my connection with Wizkids, they do send things out typically earlier and in advance of like the major public release of things. So that does help. That's why you may see me unboxing this thing here well in advance of when the general public would have access to it. So one thing I will say is the sculpt does look pretty good just from what I've seen here. I'm going to start taking the pieces out and then we'll go through it. I don't technically, in a lot of my games, I don't have a ton of use for vehicles. You know, I have I'm looking at it over there. You don't see what I'm talking about. But the Shining Star sailing ship, as well as the Infernal War Machine. Now I have this Eberron Skycoach. I like having them because, you know, at some point I may get the opportunity to use these. But for the most part I don't. Here's our main sky ship itself. Looks like, does the top come off? Or does the base come out? Looks like, oh no, it doesn't. That's just for things to go inside it. Okay, here's our big base for the Sky Coach. Then we've got our wings we need to take out here. Some of the wings are taped, some are not. That's 4 wings. I think we have a total. Sometimes I really hate these Wizkids things. We may need to take this out, pop them out from the other side. We have 2 of these kind of glowing, translucent green things, which I believe are technically solar sleds. And we have solar sled extension pegs in here as well. So let me just finish getting all of these pieces out. Then I'll zoom it in. We'll do the assembly and get on with the review. Alright, so here you can see all of the pieces. I didn't want to... These are the solar sled extension pieces. So I'm just going to take these all out of the bag right now. And we've got... They're sort of like flight stands. So let's go ahead and take a look. Here is our Sky Coach. It looks like the Sky Coach does have a plastic piece here. If I zoom this out a little bit here. This looks like this plastic piece. There's a groove on the bottom of the Sky Coach, and this sort of just slots inside like that. And then that will, looks like there are 2 different sizes on the base, and then it just sort of snaps in there like that. And now we have our Sky Coach. So we have a ladder here, as well as it looks like a bench that I think goes right here. Nope. There's no assembly instructions, so we're just going to kind of go with what looks like it makes the most sense here. I think, alright. So we've got our different pieces. We have all of these different wings. So it looks like the big sail fin here goes in the back, like this. Okay. Then we've got these kind of pectoral looking fins go where you would expect a pectoral fin to be kind of on a fish. Okay, they snap in there like that. Kind of get them in there, and they are articulate like a pectoral fin, like a ball and socket joint here. They were a little tricky, I'm sure, as you could hear in the strain of my voice as I push this thing inside there. Okay, so now we have our pectoral skyship fins. And then we have 3 other fins. 2 of these are the same, and there are clips right here. See if we can get that in focus. Here on the back. And it looks like our fins just sort of clip in there like this. Right here in the back. Just get in there. Come on, man, these are really fighting me. Clip in there. I'm gonna try this one on this side here. See if this is. I don't think it technically matters, although I did. This clip plastic started to bend a little bit. I don't think, like I said, I don't think it matters which one goes in where. The top one went in. Did we get the bottom one in? Yes, we did. Okay. So we got that one. Sorry, this is a lot. I'm trying to do this in such a way that you can see me clipping these in. You can see there is a little clip there and spots here, so this just sort of, you just pressure fit these things in, but maybe I'm having a harder time than you will. Okay, so that is now our base skyship is designed. And now here in the front you can see there are these little clips here. Now I thought maybe that was for the bench to clip in there, but the bench or whatever this thing is does not go in there. And my thoughts are it's supposed to be so that you can clip one of these ladders in right here like this. So you have, oh, this is a gangplank. Oh, I got it. It's the gangplank. So this, I believe, we can just clip our ladder in. Although our ladder, I guess we have to slide this center piece back, because if you look at that, it actually doesn't sit flush with the ground. It's actually on top of this, and therefore it unclips it. So if we try to clip the ladder in, maybe we can clip it in the other side. It's a little bit better, but I feel like if you didn't have this plastic piece on the bottom here for the base, maybe if we slide this back a little bit more into the center, it'll be a little bit better. It does actually, I don't know if you can see that, but it does seem like it kind of kicks it off a little bit cockeyed. Maybe you're supposed to bend the ladder out a little bit. And then again, because this is a gangplank where you add a port of some kind, you would have your gangplank. So we'll grab an Eberron mini here, so your mini could walk across your gangplank to gain access to your ship. I guess you could. Yeah, you can't really tilt it. I was gonna say if you could tilt it down, and then you've got your ladder over here on this side. Now, the other thing that's interesting are all of these pieces here, these solar sleds. So we can see we have 4 total solar sleds, and we have 4 solar sled bases, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 total solar sled extension pieces. So again, if you wanted to do some sort of flight stand, we could take these like this, and you can see I've built them all up, and then your solar sled just looks like it just snaps right into the bottom. And obviously if you have other, what I think if I were Wizkids, since a lot of people really like to have the idea of the flight stands to make combat more vertical in games, especially if people have flight-based abilities. If I were Wizkids, I would just sell these bases and maybe different non-solar sled tops so that you could have, so I've got 4 of them here of different heights. And they do actually have, I think you can kind of make that out there, there's a little circle for a medium size, if we can get that to really snap in there and be this. Okay, so these don't really snap in too well, they just kind of sit on the top here. I'll zoom it in and get a closer look. Maybe I'm just not pushing hard enough, but they do feel like they are very loose fit. And that, at least this particular one anyway, I think it's kind of on an angle here. Maybe I just grabbed the worst one. So you can see that it's got sort of a little recession to hold your mini on top of it here, since it is gonna, if your mini is riding on your solar sled here. I'll zoom this in a little bit so you can get a better look at it. So again, here's your mini on your solar sled, and again, because they are all interchangeable, you can just pop these out if you wanted to make it a much lower solar sled. It could be much shorter. You could stack these on top to go really high. These bases are only about the size of a regular mini, though, so I guess the thought process behind that is it doesn't take up a lot of space on your map or your terrain. In doing so, it's just like a nice little 5-foot square. The only downside is as you get these things higher and higher, you're getting less and less base stability as this thing builds up. So the taller you make it, you'll have what just happened where things are going to want to fall off. So you may potentially want to build some sort of, maybe glue a washer or something to the bottom of this, something heavy to help give this thing a little more base stability. I like these. I didn't actually focus too heavily on my read-through of Eberron on the books on the vehicles and the kind of equipment and stuff like that. At least the vehicles anyway. So these solar sleds are kind of Greek to me. I'm not entirely sure what they are. In my mind, it looks like they pretty much are what they are. They either could be tied to the ship itself and you send out these sleds as part of the ship, or this could potentially just be an additional means of transportation, a more personal means, almost sort of like a Tensor's floating disc, but made of really cool green spectral energy. This could also, again, you could even use this as like some sort of weird like undead wraith type monster if you didn't want to use them as a solar sled. Like I said, my only downside is, here, I'll bring this in a little bit and show you. So this, let's see if we can see this. Here, the base of this right here, you can see it's just sort of like a circle, and this is the base, and it's supposed to kind of click in here, I thought, but it doesn't really, like, it's not a really strong, secure fit. They do sit inside of one another like this, but it doesn't really, it's not super snug. That was actually a little bit better. I really had to wrench on it to get it in there, and now it seems like it's not going to come off. And then again, oh, see, I just touched it and it came off. So it seems like if you really wrench on it, they'll stick and stay together. But then almost just the slightest touch on, especially the tail, because of the way things are top heavy and it wants to just go over like this, you're not going to be able to keep your minis on there. But as you can see here, right, so these just, see, now that is a nice solid, you can hear that. Oops, nice solid fit. Less so on the base, but if these, if the extensions fit into the sled with the same degree of security, I think these would be a lot stronger. You would have a lot. So the problem is, like I said, it just sits on there like that, but then just the slightest touch of the tail will knock it loose because it's just balancing on there. You know, right? Here's another one, barely any. This one's actually on here pretty good. So I can show you with the mini on the top because there's that tiny recession in there. So I think I'll get a little bit more footage of the ship itself, and then we will kind of wrap this thing up. So here you can see there is some nice sort of filigree and design along the kind of railing of the ship. No masthead on the front. Here you can see again there's sort of some articulate nature to these kind of pectoral sailing fins. You can see the top here. Here's where the 2 slots are to kind of slot in either your ladder or your gangplank. This is just sort of a piece of cardboard. It does not look like it's designed to be removed. This is sort of, if you're familiar with the base of the Shining Star sailing ship, kind of cardboard cardstock. That's what this is. The other ones you could remove them on the other ship, and I don't see the opportunity to do so. You could remove them, and then the other side was gridded. This does not have a grid on it. It is just sort of like wood texture. I don't want to really wrench on this because I don't want to... I don't think I can get a good look underneath to see. Is it gridded? No, it doesn't look to be gridded. It looks to be the same. So, anyway, there you go. You can see up here we've kind of got some nice little lantern-style structures here, and then in the back we have our 3 major fins. The 3 back fins are all articulate. They can move. And then on the top here we have our kind of, I guess I have to lift this up a little bit here, is our mast, or is our rear mast here. Again, it's got, little patchwork designs on it, and it does turn left and right as if you were to rudder it. And then again, here's the bottom of the ship. This this base can just, well, I was gonna say can just slide off, but there you go. Oh, you're gonna lose the back fin if you try to slide it off, but there is a groove here, and the Skycoach base just sort of sets into that groove and just slides along. And it does balance either way depending on where you put it. I just be mindful of where your ladders are. Again, filigree on here. All in all, pretty sweet. So let's zoom it out and close this out. I just wanted to make a quick point. I did have to kind of wrench on it to get it out, and I did end up kind of dulling up the, I'm kind of bending the cardstock, but I don't know if you can make that out. It is actually gridded. Oh, if I adjust here, the other side is actually 5-foot square grids, so you can put it in that way. The inside of the ship, there's nothing really to write home about. It's just an empty plastic shell. I'm going to leave mine on the gridded side. That way, if I ever do use this for any kind of combat, I'll have it set up for that. I guess it just sort of kind of goes in on the side, and you just kind of pop it back in. So what are my thoughts on the, wow, I keep want to say this Shining Star sailing ship, on the Eberron Skycoach. It's a cool mini. It's nice to have an official D&D sort of airship mini. It's not overly big. You can fit a handful of different characters on it. If you use, obviously if you're playing in Eberron, you'll get a lot more use potentially out of one of these, along with the solar sleds. If that's not the case and you're just in a standard, maybe Forgotten Realms campaign, or your own homebrew world or something like that, is really going to be as limited to the use of airships or skyships in your campaign. If they're not something that you're going to encounter very often, the players aren't going to encounter, this may not be something worth picking up. I did have the nice benefit, and once again, thank you to Wizkids for providing these for free for review purposes. Again, I think it's cool. More often than not, though, this is likely just going to sit up on my shelf with the other vehicles. The only one that I ever see probably getting a lot of use out of in my own campaigns is the sailing ship, because inevitably, potentially, at some point, PCs are going to want to go travel a great distance, and if they don't have access to teleportation magics, boats are going to be the way they do that. And this is a standard sailing boat, so it will get a lot more use than a skyship. Although I am thinking about installing airships into my own homebrew world, so maybe I'll just do that to get the mini. And that's also something else I find when you keep getting all of these different minis, like I end up doing. You're not necessarily a big fan or looking to get any of the minis, but you get them. You're like, I was really in the market for a Death Kiss mini, right? But I have one now, and it's really cool sculpt, so now my players are going to fight a Death Kiss because I have one. So I have a cool sailing ship, so now my players may have to find one or encounter someone who has it. And again, I'm really trying to think of interesting applications for these solar sleds. I'm a sucker for translucent spell-like effect minis. Like, no joke, I will go out of my way and buy unpainted minis that have kind of translucent clear things so I can paint them and paint them up that way. So this, I have a lot of interest and ideas of what I can try to use these for. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, please do so. I know a lot of you guys coming to watch these videos are new, So if you could go ahead and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. I think it's more than half of you guys who are watching these videos out there are not actually subscribed to the channel. So please take this time to go ahead and do so. Again, hopefully you enjoyed this short little unboxing series of the new Eberron Rising from the Last War minis. I'm curious to see if we're going to get minis for Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, which would be even more interesting as someone, Matt Mercer really enjoys the minis and the tactical part of the combat with all the stuff he has going from Dwarven Forge. I'd be very curious to see if there's an Explorer's Guide to Wildmount mini set from Wizkids, because that would just be, for me, that would almost be, at least me personally, that would be more of like an achievement for me than having a book published. Because there's a lot of great avenues for third-party publishers and things like that. And I don't have any huge desire to like write a long-running campaign guide or anything like that, but I love minis. So if I was ever to get some sort of partnership and I could get my own set of minis where I got to pick the monsters that were in the set or design the monsters that then got minis made of them, that would be like my crowning D&D achievement. Anyway, that's me rambling too much about this for an unboxing video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.